Welcome to Fieldsports Britain and Happy New Year! Coming up in this week's programme, On the Run, sporting rifle editor Peter Carr is tracking a wounded roe doe with his Bavarian mountain hound. Soft option, we find out whether the Volvo 4x4 is any use outside the school run. Fit birds, how to prepare your golden eagle for sport in Scotland. But first, let's talk snow business. Shoots have been beset by climactic catastrophe. First the dark clouds of the economy gathered, then it rained all summer, and now this. Well, has your gamekeeper got a face like a wet weekend, or is he or she a little ray of sunshine? We went to a shoot in East Sussex in their second season to find out.
The weather's really affected our shoot. Our second day, which was just before Christmas, was the morning of the shoot was the morning when we woke up and there was snow everywhere, about almost a foot of it here. And it wasn't actually till we got shooting that we found that the main problem was the cover crop was completely submerged under snow because we've planted kale and quinoa, and obviously kale sits quite low. So there was no pheasants in the cover crop. They'd obviously gone deeper into the woods to find any bit of evergreen, holly, yew, laurel, whatever they could get under for a bit of warmth and protection. So we got to the drives and there you go, no birds. So it was a bit thin on the ground. We had a shorter day and we only shot a fraction of the birds we'd normally shoot. So we had about a bag of 20 and we normally have about 50 for the day. So it had a real bearing on us that day. And today, as you see, more snow, and we've had to cancel because people just can't get here because the gun's coming from London, Oxfordshire, even Malvern. So we've got people coming from quite a distance. We're going to have to basically improvise and I think go for more walked up style days rather than have the mini driven. Because, like I say, if the birds aren't in the drives anyway, I think we're just going to have to line out and push the whole of the woods through. Maybe have 3 or 4 guns at the end of the woods to pick up anything that's coming out. But the majority, I think, will be shot by people walking the birds up and shooting the birds as they're flying away. So I think that's what we're going to have to do. Certainly, we're going to give it a go anyway.
Now on to more weather-related news affecting our wildfowlers. The season for many species has been suspended because of the weather. We talked to Kent Wildfowlers Chairman Alan Jarrett, who says this is sensible.
Quite simply, the birds that migrate here spend the winter on our marshes and around our estuaries, and they are all in essence water birds and depend on the widespread and diverse nature of our marshes for their food. And once we have substantial freezing conditions, all the inland marshes freeze up, the ditches and the pools and everything, they all freeze up, and that reduces the ability of birds to feed and basically drives them onto the foreshore to feed. And freezing conditions also mean that their intake of food needs to be stepped up. We all know ourselves how being out in the cold for long periods increases your appetite, makes you tired, and those things have to be taken into account. So it's a question of what's fair to the birds. We all want to enjoy a sustainable harvest, but sustainability is the key. So we don't want to shoot birds that are under stress, we don't want to shoot birds that are in poor condition. So that's what sits behind it. It's the very essence of sustainable wildfowling. We want to take a fair and reasonable harvest without damaging species populations. The way it works, there's a statutory requirement for a ban on the shooting of wildfowl and waders, woodcock and snipe, such like, which comes into force after there has been 14 days of frozen or snow-covered ground. And we are, at the moment, into a period of voluntary restraint. The period of voluntary restraint kicks in on day 8 of the 14-day countdown. If there's no thaw between day 8 and day 14, then there's a statutory suspension for 14 days, which can be reviewed after 7 days if there's a widespread thaw. There's always a possibility for the ban to be extended if these freezing conditions continue. It'd be very unusual in this country, and we sincerely hope not, but we'll just have to see how it goes, really.
And here's another little news item. We were sent these photos of a fox at the Mendip Farmers Boxing Day meet. It appears to be perfectly fit, perfectly healthy despite the weather, and ran straight through the crowd. Did the aunties let it go, or was it one that's just been doing well over Christmas trimmings? Abbey Burton is proving to be a real hit with our viewers. This week, the London 2012 Olympic trap hopeful teaches how to stand as the pheasant approaches.
I hear you've done a bit of game shooting before, Ashley.
I've done a bit of rough farm shooting, yes.
Oh, okay, good, good. One thing I'm going to work on with you today is your foot position.
Right.
Okay, because
Yes.
on a game shoot, foot position is quite a big demand.
Right.
Just purely for the fact that you don't know where the pheasants are coming from.
Yes.
But if you think about it, if you were to have your feet pointing over here
Yes.
and you had a pheasant coming over your right hand shoulder, you're finding it quite a twist and stretch. Yeah,
Right,
there's only so much manoeuvring that your body can do.
Yes.
So in order to help yourself, I'm going to teach you what's the correct stance.
Right.
Okay, and then we're going to move and progress on shooting.
Right.
Also changing our foot position as we go round.
Right,
And
okay.
this will hopefully show you how important it is.
Okay, good. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Ashley, I'm just going to show you which target that we're going to shoot, and he's coming from just over here, so just take a look.
Right. Yes, I see.
Okay.
Okay.
The place in which you're going to shoot this target is going to be up here.
There, right, yes.
So we're going to set our foot position up for
Yes.
where we're actually going to be pulling the trigger.
Right, okay.
Okay. Now, I would call this 12 o'clock.
Right.
So with your foot position, because you're right-handed,
Yes.
right eye dominant, you shoot with both eyes open.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want your feet to be any more than shoulder width apart.
Right.
So I'd like you to stand almost with your left foot pointing towards where you're actually going to break the target.
Right.
Okay, so if you can just adopt that
Yep.
stance for me.
Yep.
I know it's probably a little bit uneven there, but that's what you'd get as well
Yep.
out on a game shoot. You'd have to find the most sturdiest place
Steadiest,
to
but
stand.
yes, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so gun's absolutely empty, so
Yes.
that's all yours.
Yep.
Finger is always away from the trigger
Yep.
to start off with, okay? So, close the gun for me so it's pointing down range.
Yep.
Good, pop it up just into your shoulder pocket.
Yep.
Now what we're going to do is just up there is where we're going to actually break it.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so as you can see, most of your weight at the moment is on that front foot.
Yep.
Okay, just bring it back a little bit because I'd like your heel to be on the floor.
Right.
Okay, so keep both feet in contact with the floor.
Yes.
This will help your
Swing.
manoeuvrability of left and right.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
does that feel okay?
Feels fine.
Excellent, good. Okay, gun down out the shoulder for the moment, lever across, just so your arms don't ache too
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
So, what we're going to actually be doing is you're going to mount the gun up to where you're going to break it.
Yep.
Now, when you wind back to where the clay is actually coming from,
Yep.
you'll feel an element of tightness to your body
As I get that far
as
right.
you
yeah.
get that far round to the right.
Yep.
This is where the tightness should be,
Right.
because then when the clay comes out,
Yes.
you unravel.
Right. Okay.
Okay, it's like a coil. You wind back and then you release.
So I wind back and start there, then track the clay and then hit it.
That's right,
Right.
yeah. You're going to pick up the clay,
Yeah.
lock onto it,
Right.
move with it, and just as it enters the break zone,
Yeah.
you're going to pull just to the left.
Just pull
squeeze
through it
in,
and squeeze.
Just
Right.
pull just to the left, squeeze the trigger.
Right.
Don't try and measure too much, a foot, 2 foot, just literally on it,
Yeah.
with it, space in front,
Bang.
pull the trigger.
Right. Okay. Pull.
On it, with it, away. Lovely. Foot position will now change.
Yes.
It's come further round to the left,
Yes.
so therefore now you've actually got more angle
Yes.
to come back.
Yes.
Okay, so what I want you to double check
Mhm.
is that you don't stay
Sideways on.
too side on. So
Right.
come round now, your
Yeah.
left foot pointing still
Yeah.
exactly where you're going to be breaking it, which is just there. You need to have your feet correct
Yes.
in order to give yourself plenty of time.
Yep. Yep.
Okay?
Or else you're just playing catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you're not giving yourself an advantage.
Yeah. Sure.
Close the gun for me, pop it up into your shoulder,
Yeah.
head in contact.
Yeah.
Now wind back slowly and just check that your body weight, good, perfect. Okay, ready when you are.
Pull.
On it, push, lovely. Lever across, open the gun, that's number 2. Now wind back, not quite to the green bin,
Okay.
good. Ready when you are.
Pull.
On it, push, brilliant.
Now, as we enjoy life in the freezer, let's turn to Sweden to find out what makes a really great shoot vehicle. A according to an unreliable report, 8 out of 10 6-year-olds who expressed a preference said that they'd prefer to travel to school in a Volvo 4x4. Their parents obviously listened as fleets of these child chariots carry our precious cargoes to and from their studies every day. But apart from the Swedes' ability to wrap us up in cotton wool, is the 4x4 system just for gravel drives leading to the clubhouse? Or is it a possible FSUV, a Fieldsports utility vehicle? Well, we're putting this Volvo XC60 in the hands of motoring journalist and Fieldsports enthusiast Dom Holton.
The XC60 is a stepping stone, if you like, between a normal family car and a hardcore off-roader. But it's also got a few tricks up its sleeve. It's full-time four-wheel drive. It's got hill descent control to help in tricky off-road terrain. It's got a 9-inch wading deck, so it's actually quite useful when you do decide to go off-road, but it's certainly not pitched as being an out-and-out off-road machine.
To see what the XC60 is made of, Dom's taking us off to the Ashdown Forest in East Sussex for two reasons. Firstly, to tell us about his work here, and secondly, to carry out our very own elk test. Dom is a volunteer with the Deer Warden scheme in the forest, which was first enclosed as a royal hunting park in the 13th century. It still has a healthy deer population, and as a result there are frequent deer-related road collisions, about 300 a year, and that's where people like Dom are called in.
The roads around here are some of the most dangerous in the country for deer collisions, and basically our job is to turn out and to try and minimise the suffering to the animals and to humanely dispatch them where that's relevant, and then to dispose of the carcass afterwards. And it's one of those schemes, I think, where stalkers feel they're giving a little bit back, and they're doing something to help out.
Back to the Volvo, and it's looking the part in the Scandinavian conditions. But considering Dom's work in Ashdown, how safe would a deer be if it ran out in front of us? With a nod to Sweden, we're going to carry out our own version of the elk test. This one isn't a high-speed lane change which hurt the A-class Merc, but a stopping distance test. But where do we find our crash test elk? Oh yes, of course. Dom hits the gas, and hopefully not our nervous-looking elk. He brakes, but oh dear. But this is not any fault of the XC60, it's physics.
What we've done there is showing what happens in wintry conditions when you have an emergency stop situation. The bottom line is you can't defy physics, even with four-wheel drive, even with ABS, even with all the traction control systems in the world. If there's not enough grip, you can't stop.
Something that did impress Dom was Volvo's new city safety system, which sensed our elk.
We noticed that the city safety system that's fitted to this car did recognise that something was blocking our path. And actually Volvo are working on second and third generation systems already. The next generation, which will launch this year, will recognise if a pedestrian steps out in front of you, and a more sophisticated system is also in the pipeline, which could easily recognise if wildlife steps out in front of the car in the middle of the night. In theory, the vehicle will react to that danger more quickly than you possibly could with human reflexes.
So after a day playing in the snow, what's the verdict? Are we doing it a disservice, suggesting that the only thing the XC60 is good for is as a shopping trolley?
I wasn't 100% sure I was going to like it. I like my kind of roughy-tufty 4x4s, but the more you spend time with it, the more you realise that actually it's so easy to live with. If you're going to be using this to turn up to your local pheasant shoot and you've got to go up the farm track, it'll be fine, you'll look smart in it and everything else. If you want to cram a load of guys in and go fox shooting over the field, it's not the tool for the job.
In snowy Yorkshire, I'm on the Wolds with sporting rifle editor Peter Carr, and he's got his work cut out controlling roe does. Let's start by going forward 8 hours. Late at night, Pete picks up the story.
Because of the weather situation and the number of deer on the farm, and the farmer was complaining, we're trying to take a number of deer off as quickly as we could in one outing. So we put the 2 stalkers where I felt where the deer would be, and then I stalked around in the area.
Then Pete gets a call from Nick. Something is wrong. He has shot at a roe doe, but it is not dead. We drive to find Nick as fast as we can in the snow.
We'll go back to where the blood was and then we'll take Jaeger from there.
Right.
All right.
Because there's blood got right down to here, like.
There is?
Yeah.
Oh, is it quite a lot of blood there?
It's got moors, it's got into the middle of the field. There was nothing at all at shot site.
We'll find it in here. What you want to do, Nick, if you get ready on these bales, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll go through with dog and it'll either come out at Andy or it'll come out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
All right.
But Nick felt he'd hit it, but the deer did run. I went to have a look in the strike area and there was no blood. But as he got away from that, he did pick up a spot of blood. Well, Nick actually, he clipped the deer, and he, looking at the actual blood trail, it was a flesh wound. There was no any sight or smell of a gut shot or a liver shot. Well, I actually use a specialist Bavarian mountain hound, which is an imported breed from Germany, and I imported Jaeger is the name of my hound from East Germany. And they are specialist bloodhounds. They've got the best. Them and the Hanoverian have got the best 2 noses, 2 breeds of any of the hound specialist bloodhounds. But the advantage of the tracking leash is you actually build up a story. The dog will mark. You might pick a piece of bone up that you can seize from the leg, or even a piece of rib or something to give you an indication of where the deer was hit. Without the tracking leash, you would just be playing chase the dog all the time, catch up with the dog. She took a bad check, or I thought it was a bad check, and she was very interested in an area. And I pulled her back thinking she'd got onto some fresh deer and not the actual wounded deer. And as I put her back onto the line, up got the deer, off it went. So she was right. So I doubted the dog and broke one of the rules. Never doubt the dog, especially a proven dog like Jaeger. So off she went, and she was right, and the deer bolted. But unfortunately, she'd actually got free from me, and when the deer bolted, she went after the deer, and unfortunately I couldn't get to the line, because normally I would have slipped her there and let her go. But unfortunately she ran with the tracking leash still attached.
So now we've got a deer running across the countryside, a dog running after it, and what have you got to do next?
To try and catch up with the dog. Unfortunately, Andy had seen where the deer and the hound had gone in after the deer. So I went down into the bottom, into the plantation, and I soon picked up the dog, saw where the dog was. I could see the trail mark where she'd been dragging the leash with blood on the deer. And when it had gone through the hawthorns, she'd either knocked the deer over or the deer had tripped as it burst through the hawthorns. So it was a serious concern with the dark, especially with the dog being free. And it was a long old track. It was 2 hours later when we actually came upon the deer, and fortunately we got a result, and Jaeger did the business, and we recovered the deer.
For a relationship to blossom, you need commitment and trust. And in falconry, you need it in bucket loads to get the best from your bird. Now, if you really want to push the relationship envelope, get yourself a golden eagle. This hunter has to be fighting fit if he's going to have any chance of catching his quarry, which means a calorie-controlled diet. Weight is all important when flying these incredible birds, and so is the commitment the falconers have to give to their eagles. Your life will change if you decide that eagle falconry is for you, and there are clear rules you have to obey to ensure an animal as intelligent as this is trained to become a well-mannered servant and companion, and not the master. Which is why Pete and Gary have driven 3 hours to see Roy.
We've got 5 eagles that we're exercising and training today. We've got a couple of this year's young eagles that we're just bringing on, and part of the fitness training routine that we do with them, and part of the routine that we do to keep the eagles in condition and keep them running along the right track is to give them a few lure flights each day, so they get 2 or 3 long hard flights at simulated game. So today we're using a skinned out fox with the head on, and the eagles are going to chase after that towed behind the gator that we've got. We're going to be, at the moment, we're going to be doing a few flights into the wind, so they're going to have to work really, really hard. And it's a very quick way of building up fitness with the birds. Once they get hold of it, then we simulate a bit of a fight, just to get them concentrating on the lure. Then we'll just go in, give them a reward, and then trade them off.
Roy's using a John Deere Gator for his training. Its speed and lightweight, plus its off-road ability, means he can give the eagles a run for their money. First up is Gary. His young eagle has been a bit aggressive of late, but he's had a few days R&R at Roy's, and today he has a chance to channel some of that aggression in the right way.
Gary's going to stand reasonably close for the slip, because the idea is we want the eagle to be straight off after the lure, at very close quarters, and straight up on it, you know, really, really powering into it. So he's going to get a few pieces of meat on top, so that's going to be his reward for catching, and they should just trade up absolutely perfectly onto the lure, sorry, onto the fist from the lure, get their reward without any snottiness or any bad behaviour. Hood back on, and he's ready for his next go.
The eagles will each do a couple of flights this afternoon, and just like us taking up a new Get Fit regime, they will be hurting in the morning. Up next is 6-month-old eagle Merlin. The youngster is already proving to be a well-mannered customer.
He's a cracking-natured bird. As you've seen, there's no aggression there at all. He's just fully focused on what the job is, what we want him to do, and it's also what he wants to do as well, so all's good.
Pete is a professional falconer on an estate in Leicestershire, but because eagles are so different to other birds of prey, he wants to make sure he gets it right, whilst realising a boyhood dream.
So it's nothing new for me, but the golden eagle side of things it's something that's I've been dreaming of since I was 7 or 8 years old, and I've been planning it for a good number of years now. So to get to this stage now, it's a dream come true for me. I just hope that I can live as long as the golden eagle. I doubt it. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. And I do, I'm afraid.
Time to pack up the birds, the gator, and get back to Roy's for a wash and brush up. It's pedicures all round.
So just cleaning the bird's feet up afterwards. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll scrub them off with soapy water, and then afterwards we'll just oil them up a little bit, just to make sure that they don't dry out. But again, this is very good for the birds. It's a good habit to get into, because it gets the birds used to being handled, and you're not worried about your hands coming in and working on them.
So over a cuppa, Gary has a chance to reflect on how his bird has done today and whether he feels he can give him the time it needs.
It's my first eagle and I've made mistakes, and I'm knocking on Roy's door because I need to see a path where I've got to take the bird in order to rectify these small mistakes I've got. And the bird's been down here now for 3 days, and he is a different bird. He's really chilled out now, and he's starting to come round and see what his job is in our falconry circle, which is obviously we like to take them out, fly them and hunt them.
The time and effort needed to put into a bird is 100% commitment. You can't waver. Everything, every day, you've got to keep that bird stimulated, and that bird could live 30, 40, maybe 30, 40 years, maybe even longer. So, if you're thinking about taking on an eagle, then it's not as easy a step to make as a lot of people think it is. You've got to realise that you've got to take that bird into your life, and your life has got to become that of an eagle falconer.
If you want a meaningful relationship with a bird as majestic as a golden eagle, you'll have to treat it like royalty. This programme is back in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be looking at the best of British wild boar shooting. Next week, shooting politics, and we're talking to Bryn Parry, shooting cartoonist and co-founder of the Help for Heroes charity. This has been Fieldsports Britain, the video version of Egging John Prescott.